Hi there, can you guys hear me? Awesome. Just see how many few people, let few people join and then we'll get started. As always, we want to start with 10 deep breaths. I thought finding awareness is a girl. That wouldn't be so bad, is it? That's not the worst I've got. Someone once said, I thought you were a 60-year-old woman. So, how long will I be on today? As long as it takes. So, we'll see. So, again, we are going to do, we're going to count breaths on one hand, and I think we'll do 20 breaths. It takes about 3-4 minutes. So, if you're here after that, great. But we're going to do that, and I always like to start this way. So this is the way you count, right? So you count with your thumb and you go along the tips and the grooves of your fingers. So you do 1 2 3 4 1 2 3 4 1 2 3 4 1 2 3 4. That's 16 1 2 3. So you'll have 19 breaths like that, and count one for your entire hand. So that way you can get 20 breaths without mentally counting. All you have to do is just run your thumb down the grooves and the tips of your fingers. So I like this method of counting because that way my entire attention is on breathing, and we want to breathe from the lower belly. So if you want to, you can keep your other hand below your navel and really feel your belly come out and go in. You don't want to move your shoulders up and down. You want to move your stomach in and out. So that's a proper way of breathing, and it will clear your mind, for lack of a better term. So I'm going to get started. I'm going to do 20 breaths. If you're still here, great. So all right, I'm back. So you want to breathe in slowly and you want to exhale even slower than you took the breath. So if you do this, especially when you're anxious or when you're worried, this is going to help you clear your mind. And yeah, I'm woken up, I'm wide awake. So this is going to clear your mind and bring you back to the present moment. And when you do this exercise every time, what you want to do is you want to let go of everything. You want to let go of any expectation you're having at the moment. You want to ask yourself, what do I want out of this moment? Because as long as you want something out of it, you cannot be in the moment. See, as long as you want something out of the moment, you cannot be in the present moment. So you want to ask yourself, what do I want out of this moment? And whatever that is, you keep letting go of that. Keep letting go of that. Whatever you're trying to protect, whatever you're trying to defend, whatever you're trying to you are being afraid of, and you want to conserve, you let go of all of it. So let me know if you have any questions. So we'll look at any questions. See the small question mark on the bottom of your screen. You can click on it and type your question, and then we can go through them. So that's true, the expectations will come back after you come back from the present moment, and then you look at them, you look at the expectations, what they say, because you're always observing the mind, and these expectations are telling something. As long as you are watching, as long as you are watching the expectation, you can understand from it, learn from it. So let's see if you have any question. What about hopes? So hopes and expectations are good to have. So by your hope, by the word hope, I mean you are speaking of something positive that you're looking forward to. This is one big confusion a lot of people have, is whether when I'm in the moment, do I only, is the movement of my meditation only towards getting rid of the negative thoughts, or am I also to be done with positive thoughts? Because most of us, when we have negative thoughts, the way we approach them is we superimpose them with positive thoughts, and that's a mistake, because what happens is when you superimpose them with the positive thoughts, you enter a battle, you start getting into conflict with yourself, and so then you have positive and you have negative both at the same time, and so then the mind is confused, which one do I want to do? And so the right way to approach it is to have authentic thoughts, not negative, not positive, but neutral in a sense. And hopes and dreams are good. You can keep them on the side when you meditate. Say that, all right, I have these hopes, I have certain expectations from my life, I'm going to put them aside for the moment. And for the moment, I'm going to meditate. For the moment, I'm going to be here. So that's how you want to deal with any positive hopes that you have. Oops, that's a question. What other question do you have? So someone said, I cried during the meditation. Why? No idea why. A lot of the times we let go of tremendous amount of built up emotions that we have, and when we meditate, or when somebody asks us to meditate, that's the importance of doing this with people, because when somebody tells us to do it, it's we kind of feel like we are in the presence of a doctor, let's say, and whatever the doctor tells you, you do, when you are in the doctor's office, right? But when the doctor says wash your hands, you wash your hands, but you wouldn't have done it if it was all up to you. And so that's the benefit of having a group where you can do this together. And when you do these things, when you let go, even for a moment, there is sometimes a tremendous build up of emotional content, which is always we are holding back, always fighting against it. So the instant our defenses come down and those emotions come out, and so it's good to cry sometimes and let go, and there's nothing to judge yourself about if that happens. So there's a question from Kent. Surrender, more about it. Examples like last time. My mind gets so busy trying to learn it. So that's the problem with surrender, right? Is it a technique that can be learned? Okay, let's address that question first, because I do talk about it a lot, too much actually, on this page, while at the same time I never really addressed the fundamental issue with the concept of surrender. Is that, can it be a technique which is learned? Can you learn to surrender, right? What does it mean when I'm learning to do something, when I'm learning to ride a bicycle, let's say? Remember, go back to the first time you're trying to ride a bicycle, or an exercise like swimming. Remember the first time you're learning how to swim. The bicycle is especially a good example, because you cannot consciously decide to balance when you are first learning how to ride a bike. You are struggling, but you are not consciously learning. What is learning is your brain, is the subconscious elements of your brain learning how to balance, keep your balance when you're riding a bike. Your brain is learning how to control hundreds of different muscle groups together at the same time, while keeping your head straight, because the balance is in the head, keeping the direction of your vehicle straight. So you're not doing it consciously, but you're learning it unconsciously. So this is an important factor to understand. Just like even when swimming, you cannot swim if you're trying really hard to stay afloat. You will sink. That's why when people begin to learn swimming, they are usually constantly trying not to drown. And learning surrender is kind of like that. The more you struggle to learn it, the more you're not going to learn it, because it is one technique which defies effort. It is one technique which says, the more you try, the less I'm going to come to you. And that is the beautiful thing about it. That is the most sacred thing about it, actually, is that it forces you to let go of all effort. Because unless you leave all the effort outside the door, you cannot enter the door. And so the problem arises with talking about it and teaching about this technique, is that how do you teach somebody something when it cannot be learned? And which is why I teach it freely, or I talk about it freely. I don't like to use the word teach, but talk about it freely, because I know that I am not giving you anything. If you come to it, if you understand it, it is going to be because you understood it, not because I was talking about it, because you cannot learn it from me. I am a mere causation. Me and other people you listen to, whoever's books you read, are mere causations, unintended consequences of which is the fact that you are learning. But you are still learning on your own. You are not learning because of somebody else. You cannot do that. So surrender is one such technique which forces you to let go of all effort before it can be learned. So a snake cannot eat its own tail. Alan Watts used to say that a fire cannot extinguish itself. Only water can extinguish fire. And so effort is like fire. You are applying effort in order to reach a state of no effort. See, how can you apply effort to reach a state of no effort? How can you learn in order to reach a state of no learning? And so surrender is one of those things which happens to a lot of people when they hit, don't like to use this word, but when they hit rock bottom. See that? I'll let you absorb that for a second, because people don't hit rock bottom unless they have done absolutely everything that they know they can do. And so if you are doing everything that you feel that you have done, or there are some things you feel that this is, I can try that technique, I can try this technique, I can do this, I can do that, I can maybe read that book, maybe read this book. As long as you have that going on, the effort is going to sustain itself. And as long as effort sustains itself, you cannot find surrender. So you will find surrender when you let go of everything and you say finally, for the first time, that I no longer know what I need to do, that I no longer can proceed, I no longer know how to progress, I no longer know how to improve myself, and therefore I have given up. or I'm given in. And when you do that, then you don't mind whatever happens next, and that is surrender. Let's see if there is any questions. Again, tap the question icon on the bottom and type your questions over there. So let's take this question. I'm new here. I've never tried meditation. How do I start? What are the basic steps? So if you're looking for a technique, there are 100 different techniques out there. I generally start with a very simple technique, extremely simple, which is start with focusing on your breath, because when you focus on your breath, you are going to clear your mind. There is just no choice you have in the matter. So focus on your breath, but not in the sense of striving. Focus on your breath in the sense of I have made up my mind that I want to meditate, and that's why I'm going to focus on my breath. So if you want to do it in a way that you follow a technique, and that's the technique you can follow. Sit in one place, decide not to move your body too much. First, stretch if you want a little bit, whatever small itches you have, scratch your body, whatever you want to do, because those things will start coming up. When you are new to meditation, the strongest impulse you're going to have is to move. And so move as much as you want before, and distract yourself as much as you want before you begin meditation. And once you begin meditation, you say, I'm going to not move my body for a few minutes, and I'm just going to focus on my breath. So you focus on your breath for 20 breaths, and then you let your mind free. Then your mind is automatically going to wander and pick up a problem you have. And so pay attention to that. Pay attention to how your mind is moving, finding worry, finding fear, finding problems from your daily life. And when your mind is wandering, make sure your body is not moving. Make sure your body is absolutely still. Remember, meditation eventually, in the long run and even in the short run, is an exercise in balance. We meditate because we want to find balance in our lives. We don't meditate because we want to get awakened or become enlightened and all that nonsense. We meditate because we want to find balance in our daily life. I come home from work and I'm stressed out, and I'm angry at my wife or my kids or whatever, and I don't know what to do about it. And I have all these different fears, I have all these different insecurities in my life, and I don't know how to address them. And that's when I decide to meditate. So if you are deciding to meditate, first find out why you want to meditate. Do you want to meditate because it is cool suddenly, or because people are advising it all of a sudden? Don't do meditation because it is fashionable to meditate. Meditate because it impacts your life. It is about you. It is not about anybody else. So first, be clear in your mind about it. Why am I meditating? Am I meditating because I want to imitate somebody? I want to be like someone else? Am I meditating because I can take a picture of myself meditating and put it online? Am I meditating because I can tell my friends that now I'm a meditator, and now that has become a part of my ego and my image? Or am I meditating because I have a serious problem in my life and I don't know how to solve those problems? So have that approach to meditation. And then if you have that approach to meditation, I guarantee you, you will never ask anybody else how to meditate, because then meditation becomes an art form. Then it becomes something you do as a painter or an artist picks up a piece of paper and he picks up a pencil and starts sketching or starts painting. Then it becomes an art form. So you want meditation to be an art. You don't want it to be a practice, a force, something you do because other people are doing it or other people are suggesting that you do it. You do it because you are interested in it, and that's the right way to meditate. So I guess that's a long answer, but that's how I would advise you begin meditation. So that way you don't go off on a wrong track, learning 100 different techniques, and then at the end of it realizing none of them work. They don't work because we are not doing them for the right reasons. The reason matters. The reason is everything. Do I use music from the same person? Yeah, I do use music to meditate. I listen mostly to handpan music these days, but that helps me calm down and come back into the moment. So Let's see any other question you can have. So, any tips on what to do when your feelings feel too overwhelming for yourself? So, there's two things. One is, firstly, I'll give you a direct method of what to do when feelings are overwhelming. We want to develop a high sensitivity to our own inner states. Okay, when we have high sensitivity to our inner states, we begin to know when our feelings are becoming pent up, when our energy is becoming pent up, when there is too much overload going on in our brains. We can't know that if we are not sensitive. So generally what happens is, because we don't know, because we are not observing our mind, because we don't know how to observe our body, the stress is constantly building up, and one day when the stress gets to a certain level, it explodes. Usually it explodes on your family members, that is, you scream at them or you yell at them, or you say something rude to somebody at work, etc., etc., and then you feel guilt, and then you're trying to work out that guilt, and so you get caught up in all this because firstly the sensitivity is not there. Sensitivity towards your inner states is self-awareness. Simplest definition of self-awareness. That is creating a practice to make sure that we take some time out of every day to pay attention to our feelings. Feelings, not just psychological feelings, not just your emotions, but feelings as in what are the actual physical sensations on my body right now. Can I connect with my physical sensations? What sounds am I hearing right now? My dog is barking. I don't know if you guys can hear it. Somebody's playing outside. So what sounds am I hearing right now? And can I stay with those sounds instead of trying to analyze them, instead of trying to describe what those sounds mean? Can I stay with them? Can I stay with my physical feelings without trying to call them that is painful, that is pleasurable, that is neutral? Can I look at something, whether it's a tree or whether it's a person or whether it's a dog? Can I look at something completely, and can I look at it in such a way that I'm no longer processing something at the back of my mind? So you want to create this sensitivity in you. So if you create this sensitivity, you will never get to a point where things are at a point that they are going to overflow. My printer over here, that things begin to overflow. So you want to firstly develop sensitivity, and it is going to happen that you fail several times, even I fail sometimes, to maintain that level of sensitivity, and then you come to a point of being overwhelmed. Firstly, what I do is I remove myself from company. I go away and I sit in my meditation room, which is where I am right now, and I will sit here and I will close my eyes and I will just process whatever is going on. Just start bringing my attention back to my thoughts, and again start with taking conscious deep breaths, 20 deep breaths, and that will release the tension a little bit, and then you start looking at your thoughts. Instead of arguing with your thoughts, observe your thoughts, see what they are saying. And if you develop a method of observing your thoughts, you will resolve inner conflicts, and you will resolve the entanglement your thoughts have with other thoughts, and when they are free, the energy will be released. And if you're always resolved, you will always have a tremendous amount of energy, because you are not caught up, you're not hung up on any of the things. And if you can do that, great, then you won't be in a situation where you are getting overwhelmed or know before it happens. And guys, I can't read the feed because there's lots of messages on the feed, so type your questions out and I'm looking at them. So there's a question here. How did you come to bring these practices or philosophies in your own life? And there's another question. How did you reach it? So I think it's the same thing. Firstly, the reason why anybody, even you are here right now, or anybody reads anything which is got to do with self-help, self-awareness, meditation, mindfulness, the reason why people are attracted or gravitating towards these things is because of suffering. It's because they have a lot of pain in their lives and they don't know how to process that pain. They don't know how to let go of that pain. And because they don't know that, they are looking at ways to incorporate self-awareness meditation into their lives. A lot of times what happens is, when we read different books, when we listen to different people, it becomes an intellectual exercise. Okay, and this is important. It was for me for a long time. I would get into arguments with myself or with other people on concepts, whether there is a certain concept, which is whether ego dies. Is there something called as ego death? What happens when you are enlightened? What happens when your consciousness is awakening and expanding, and all those things? Several people have talked about them. Spiritual teachers especially go endlessly on about those things, and so we look at them and then we intellectually try to grasp those ideas. Some of those ideas instantly start to transform our lives. Instantly we realize small things here and there, and it's like, oh, that's a neat trick, that's pretty cool, that's a great concept. But understand that those concepts, that intellectual understanding, is not real understanding. Real understanding is doing those things. Okay, and doing those things happens when you come to a point in your intellectual understanding where you realize that all you have got is words. Okay, so I came to that point where all I had with me was words, and worse yet, those words were other people's words. They were not even my own words. These were other people's descriptions of the mind, the ego, of spirituality, of what it means to live this life, and I had absorbed them. I had gotten attached to those words. So become aware of yourself being attached to my words or somebody else's words or whoever's words you are reading, because as long as you are attached to their techniques, their words, their methods, you cannot bring those things into your life. You cannot make it your own, right? So you want to make all these things your own. So you want to evaluate them, which is why the meditation techniques I prescribe are those of observing something without trying to judge it, without trying to say it's good or bad. But if you do say it's good or bad, observing that too and saying that's okay. See, your intention is to not judge things, but the conditioning of judging is so strong that you're going to judge things all the time, and so you want to be aware of those things. And so unless you reevaluate everything, relearn all the lessons other people have taught you, you cannot bring it into your own life. And so the way I did it was, I threw away everything I knew intellectually and began at square one. Alright, some people are angry. I have no idea why. Hey Rahul, I don't know why you're angry, buddy. Let's see. So let's take Webster's question. Hey buddy, I thank you for being here, because you're always here. I've read a lot of spiritual books, and in most of them Jesus was just another teacher. So is there a question here? Jesus was a very good spiritual teacher, no doubt about that. That's why Christianity has many good ideas. Many religions do. All religions have good ideas, and all religions have bad ideas, because religious books, believe it or not, were written by people. They didn't fall out of the sky, last time I checked. So if people write books, they are going to be faults in those books. So don't take any book at its word. Know that every book has good ideas, and you have to transform those ideas to make sure that they align with your with the current society, the current value system of the society. Because some of the things you pick out of books, they sound absolutely absurd. So you don't want to take those absurd things and believe in them, because they were written in a different society for a different set of people, and those people are long gone. But I wouldn't say religions have bad ideas. Religions have very good ideas. But yeah. Buddy Webster, your questions are statements as coming in my question feed. So if you have a question, let me know. Let's see. So here's a question, interesting question, different question. So let's see. I'm from India. This is the question I saw. My name is Amit and I'm from India, but I live in the US for the past 15 years, and um, that's my home right now. So I'm from United States. So do you think there's someone out there for everyone, that everyone will find romantic love? What time is it? So we have half an hour. Um, I think that's kind of an irrelevant question if I have to honestly answer it, because when we put a question in this way, is everybody going to find their life partner? Okay, the answer cannot be a positive. Let me just put it that way, because that's not how the world works, and we don't even have the same number of men and women in the world. In different countries, they have different ratios. So if you just look at the statistics of it, it's kind of absurd. So that's a wrong question. The correct question is, how do I find somebody who is right for me? Wouldn't you say? That's the right question. And we can go into that question. How to find someone who is right for you? Another question we can ask is, can everyone figure out who is right for them and look for that person? And the answer to that question is yes. Everybody can figure out who is right for them and then look for that kind of a person and come as close as possible to finding the right person. And the notion of finding somebody who is absolutely perfect for me or myself, it's a romantic notion. It doesn't work that way. Even if you marry the love of your life, you are going to have thousands and thousands of fights throughout your entire married life. So it doesn't work that way. What works is to find a person who is aligned with you on the key aspects of living a life, which is living a life together, being a companion. And so you need to look at those things carefully. What are the things which I know about myself, which I absolutely cannot see in another person, which I absolutely cannot have in my ideal life partner? So the advice I give about this is, or what I did, I'll tell you what I did. I figured out 3 things which I wanted in the person I love, and I knew that I cannot marry a person who doesn't have even one of those three things. Now you want to create a list which is not too long. You don't want to have 100 different things, because then you are being too specific. If you are too specific, of course nobody's going to fit the bill, and if you are too general, everybody's going to fit the bill. So you want to have a decent list, and it seems to me that 3 or 4 criteria which you can think of usually work out pretty well. So I asked myself, what do I want? So I wanted a few things. Firstly, I wanted somebody who loved animals. So my wife is an animal lover, just like I am. I love dogs, I love cats, I love every animal you bring into my house. So I wanted to be with somebody who can allow me to have pets, right? So I wanted an animal lover, somebody who wants to have pets in the house. So that was the first thing. Second thing is, I wanted to be with somebody who is generous and kind. When you give, you give with the expectation of receiving back, because I'm that kind of a person. So I wanted somebody who is like that. So I was observing these things when I was, dating. And the third thing I wanted in my ideal life partner was somebody with an open mind, which means somebody who was willing to question their own opinions, beliefs, judgments about the world. Because I realized that if you want to grow in self-awareness, and I wanted somebody who can grow with me, they need to have at least the prerequisite, the primary, it's not a lot to ask for, the very basic notion that they are willing to look at their own ideas and say, I could be wrong, so I'm willing to learn. So let's see if we can learn together. And so I wanted to learn and grow with this person, and so that's why I said I want somebody who can question their own beliefs and be okay with it, not feel insecure when somebody shows them, or when they discover, more importantly, that they are wrong, but be open to growing, be open to learning. And my wife has all 3 qualities. And so when I saw that in a person, and what are your qualities, you need to find those qualities in you, what are the top 3 things which I want in a person. Looks may not be there. So you see, looks is not one of the things I mentioned. So looks, maybe you don't get somebody, now thankfully my wife is really beautiful, but maybe you get somebody who is not as good looking, and that's fine, because now you will find somebody who is going to match you, who is going to grow in happiness with you, who is going to support your happiness, because now you are aligned on things that matter. Looks don't matter to you in that example. If looks matter to you, of course, pick somebody with looks. I'm not saying looks don't matter at all, but you need to find out what matters to you, and that requires self-investigation, that requires self-awareness, that requires self-observation. So you go the whole circle and we come back right where we begin. That is, everything begins with self-awareness. So do I think there's someone out there for everyone? No, I don't think so. But do I think there is someone out there for you? Absolutely there is. And it doesn't matter who you are, for you. There is always somebody out there. You just need to figure out how to find those people. Let's see. There's a question which is, can you talk about a bit about your process? How did you start? I think I addressed this question before. My process was of suffering. So I went through some stuff which is pretty minor when I look back at it, but everybody has to go through their process. They have to be, it's a furnace. You have to go through the furnace of suffering, really, to be remolded into somebody else, to be remolded into something else. So I went through that and I suffered. I had a massive breakup and it was really painful. So I had to process that. Then I lost my job. So I had to process that. And I was severely bullied at work because I was not a very confident person. And probably, I don't know if you can tell, but I was very awkward by talking to people, not sure about myself at all, not confident at all. So I was bullied at work. Then I was laid off from that job, or I was fired actually. I wasn't laid off, I was fired from that job. Then I had to leave the country. I had to leave the United States, go back to India. So I had to pretty much start from square one in terms of everything in my personal life. And so that was a beautiful process for me. And that's how I started. I started reading books after that, began intellectual understanding after that, and then intellectual understanding eventually proves itself to be fruitless, which is when you say, okay, what am I missing? And then you start questioning everything and you rediscover those wisdoms which you read in the books. That's the most important thing. You must rediscover everything that you have read out there. So some of it, what I'm saying right now, it may sound it's not original at all, and which is fair. It might not be original, but it is. I can guarantee you that I have discovered it for myself. That much I can tell you, because I discarded the very same things when I read them from a book, but when I rediscovered them, I was open to embracing them. So will I save this life? Yes, this life is being saved. Last time I screwed it up, so I apologize, because there was no mic in one of the lives I did last time, and then the other one when I recorded, I was having a work call, so my work call got recorded on top of the Instagram last time, so it was pretty weird. Can you talk about forgiveness? So yeah, let's do forgiveness, forgiving others, forgiving ourselves. So I guess the question is, how do you forgive somebody else, right? So the simplest way to look at it is, when you refuse to forgive yourself or someone else for whatever they said, whatever they did, or whatever you did in your past, you are getting attached to an idea, okay, of being hurt. You are hurt. Firstly, you are hurt, but you're also attached to an idea of being hurt, which is you see yourself constantly being in that state where I am hurt and that is my identity. So that becomes your identity because we repeat it so often. We hold this grudge against people and guilt if we did something wrong. We hold that in for so long that it becomes a part of who we are, and we don't know how to let go of it. Well, we have to understand one thing, that it is a roadblock which is holding us back. And who created that roadblock? It is we who have created it. Even though the action was something they did, we decided to get attached to whatever they said. And so you forgive people not for their sake, not because they are off the hook, or because now you can let them hurt you again, etc., etc. But you forgive them because you realize that unless I let go of this this blockage I have, this pent up energy I have, which is always thinking about that person angrily, unless I let go of that, I cannot proceed. I am stuck. I cannot grow from here. I cannot move on from here. My energy is trapped in me blaming them. So when your sensitivity increases, when your self-awareness increases, you will start realizing that these patterns are constantly going on in your mind. One of the patterns is, they did that to me. They are responsible. That's why I am suffering. And so when you realize this pattern, how it is constantly repeating for no real reason apart from the fact that you just want to prove a point, you just want to teach them a lesson. What for? See, why are you really holding it against them? What has it gotten you so far? And what is it going to get you in the future? And when you really examine that, and when you see that there's absolutely no point in me holding on to this blame, that's when you let go. And I know some of you are thinking, oh, what if somebody physically assaulted me, or sexually assaulted me, etc., etc. I already said, we are not forgiving them for their sake, we're forgiving them for ours. So unless we heal, there is no better response to what they did to you than the fact that you healed, that it no longer matters to you what they did to you. What is a better response than that? That you no longer want to erect a barrier between them. You no longer have a boundary with them. I've had people in my life who have who have not been nice to me, let me just put it that way, and who I went back and forth for years, who I fought with for years, even to the point of breaking down. One of my closest friends, actually, even to the point of breaking down. And then I erected a barrier with him. I said, we're no longer going to have this conversation about this particular topic, etc. And then we had that boundary or barrier for years, for 4 or 5 years. I barely spoke to him. But when the inner change began to happen in me, when I began to heal, I realized that I was holding that against him. But it wasn't doing him any harm, it was just doing me harm. And that's when I let go of all of that. And now there is no fear, no boundary, no barrier. So forgive others, not for their sake, but for your sake. What do you think? I'll just answer this question. What do you think of Thich Nhat Hanh? Is that how you pronounce it? I've come across him who thinks everything is meaningless. I don't know if that's a right characterization of what they believe, but I'm not going to comment on anybody else's teaching. What I will say is, everyone's teaching has importance at a particular stage in your growth. Okay, somebody who teaches, which now you might say something very silly, that might have value to some people who are in that stage of their growth. Law of attraction, for example, in the beginning stages, I shouldn't say beginning stages, but law of attraction at some point looked very appealing to me, but now it doesn't look very appealing to me because I've moved away from it. So I'm very careful before trashing somebody else's teaching or devaluing somebody else's words, because they have value to some people at some stage in their growth, and not all of these things are going to have value to you right now, because there are many teachers I looked at, I read their stuff. I was very taken by what they said then, because that is what I needed in that stage of my life. And now I look back at it and say that, oh, that's some childish stuff right there. So I do look back and say, okay, that's not right. That was completely wrong. That was a brilliant idea. So when you rediscover everything for yourself, that's when you will have a proper perspective. But the statement everything is meaningless is true in a sense. It depends on what is your frame of reference. See, that's why I posted a picture a few days ago um, on my Insta story. It was a picture of a galaxy named M51, and I posted a link to it so you can zoom in and see how brilliant that galaxy is. And at the center of that galaxy, stars are being born every day. And so that's how big the universe is. The universe is absolutely immense. No words can touch how huge the universe is. And our Earth doesn't even register as a spot. And every single person we know and every single person they knew, going back hundreds of thousands of generations, every single war that has been fought, every single word that was said, every single person that has died, and other people who have cried for those people dying, every single painful thought, pleasurable thought, everything that has happened on this planet happened in a speck of dirt, which is our planet, which is completely forgotten if you look at our galaxy. That's how huge our galaxy is. And there are billions of galaxies out there. So if you change your frame of reference, everything is meaningless. But obviously that's not true, because when this life is over and you go back to your life and when I go back to my life, our problems are standing facing us square in the face, staring us square in the face. And so you have to have perspective. You can change your perspective from your life to the universe, going back to your life, going back to the universe as many times as you want, and you will see different meanings associated to different things. But if I say everything is meaningless, so is that statement that everything is meaningless. That wasn't original, by the way. Alan Watts said that at some point. So, but I that stayed with me. So that's an interesting thing, right? The moment you say everything is meaningless, even that statement becomes meaningless. So that statement can't be true. I guess I'm speaking too long. So that's it. Let's see if there's any other questions. My throat is running dry, so I'm going to drink some water. Now make sure we stay within an hour because we have 11 minutes. Which book do you recommend for someone who wants to improve self-awareness? Really, there is no right answer. I would say a pretty stark lesson in self-awareness is Jiddu Krishnamurti's books and his work, I should say, because he goes in circles though. He speaks a very complicated language. So be careful if you get into Krishnamurti, because he's like a phenomenon. He will consume your mind if you really get into him for many years. He did mine. So, but he is one of the single most reasons why my self-awareness dramatically improved. And if you read his work and if you see what I write on the page, you will see many similarities because he has been a powerful influence. Another influence in my life has been Eckhart Tolle. So Eckhart Tolle's books are also very powerful. He wrote only 2 books, but 2 books are all you need. Read that book. So that is also a good book to improve your self-awareness. And and perhaps a good time to pitch in because I am writing a book too. I don't know how it's going to turn out. Never written a book before, but I'm writing a book and it is all this stuff going into layers and layers and layers of conditioning and really going deep down to begin our journey from very superficial levels of existence and going deep down. So that's what my book is going to be. It's going to be only about self-awareness, just observing how the mind is. And it's going to be in 2 parts. First part is going to be just understanding yourself. Whoever wants to whoever is interested in going really deep into our own mind, into the structure of the ego, all that is in there, guilt, insecurity, fear, everything, it's in the book already. And right now I'm writing a part about how the ego is structured, so breaking down the ego into several aspects of it, and right, talking about that, and then we'll talk about surrender. But everything is cumulative, and go deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper. It's like a rabbit hole pretty much, until you get to the bottom. So that's the way I'm writing it. But there are many books out there. I don't know which book will appeal to you. Those are the authors that appeal to me. So I'm seeing some suggestions come up on the chat. So yeah, Self Observation by Red Hawk. Yeah, I don't know about that book, but sure. How do I spell? His first name is Jiddu, Jiddu, and his last name is Krishnamurti, Krishnamurti. That was a mouthful, wasn't it? His book is called The Awakening of Intelligence. He wrote 60-70 books. That's one of his books. I don't know what NPD is. Neuro-linguistic programming? No, I don't know what NPD is. So, if you can describe that. All right, let's talk about this question. I know there is a few I missed. Somebody's asking, what do I do for a living? I work in an electronics company and I'm a manager. Pretty boring stuff. I work in business. I'm a business operations guy. So yeah, I have a regular job and I have a lot of work right now. I'm very busy. So that's enough about work. What's my definition of love? To put it simply, love is where you are not. Okay, that's the simplest definition of what love is. If you are present behind that love, then it's the lesser. So imagine that there is a circle and you can have only one of two things in there. You can either have your ego or you can have love. You can either have selfishness or you can either have giving. As much as selfishness you have in that circle, as much as ego you have in that circle, the remaining of it is going to be love. So when somebody says, in my relationship, is there true love? Some of it is true, the rest of it is ego. Or some of it is ego, the rest of it is love. So you have to find out how much of it is you in the relationship and how much of it is love. So, and love is not attachment, by the way. Attachment is different. So you have to find out what your definition of love is. But I wouldn't want to flood your mind with my idea of what love is. It has to be something which has to be discovered by yourself. There is something called as universal love, which is not about a certain person, but just the feeling of being in love. You know what I mean? It's a strange thing to describe, but it feels as if there is an opening up of the deepest parts of your being, and there is nothing which is held back, and everything that is there is only going outwards. All the energy is moving outwards. There is nothing which is being held towards you that you want absolutely nothing in return for anything that you're doing or for the thing that you're doing in that moment. So if you find one moment in your life like that where you want nothing in return, okay, that's a moment of true love. So I'm trying to build up a life in which there are most of it is filled up with moments like that, where I'm not asking or expecting, even at a subconscious level, anything back for myself. But that's what love would be for me. Love is when you are not. Well, that last comment over there. Um, don't go too hard on yourself. I'm sure everybody has experienced love in some form or another. NPD, narcissistic personality disorder. What do you think about narcissism? I don't think about narcissism. What is there to think about it? It's a destructive tendency. It destroys people in the lives of those who have it, and it destroys their own life too, even though they don't know it. I just wouldn't want to live that kind of a life. It doesn't mean these people are unhappy. In fact, narcissistic people are the happiest people you will find, because they just don't give a crap about anybody else. So if you don't give a crap about anyone else, yeah, you're going to be happy. The choice is, do you want to live that kind of a life? And my choice is, I don't. So that's all I would say about it. We have 2 minutes. What should I look at this? But in this realm, we have expectations that part of the human experience. Without expecting a certain thing in return, you become a doormat. Was that today's post? Well, there are certain basic expectations. So you have to understand what those basic expectations are. They are pretty much the foundations of any relationship. Proper communication, proper responsiveness. That is, if you talk to somebody and they are not even looking at you and they're ignoring you, you can't have a relationship like that. So you want to have proper communication. You want to have trust. You want to have loyalty. If that's one of your things. But those are like some of the key things. Once you have those key things as ingredients in the relationship, the rest of it really comes down to what is the dynamic you develop with the person in your life, based on how present you are with them. See, a lot of the times when we have expectations, we get caught up in the idea that I need to let go of my expectations. Don't let go of your expectations. Just be in the moment, and the expectations will go away by themselves. Okay. Don't make everything a fight. Don't make everything try to meet a concept. That I want to be somebody with no expectations. I want to be fully egoless, supreme loving being. None of that is true. None of that is ideal. The only thing that is ideal is you being in the moment when you are talking to your loved one. If you are in the moment when you're talking to them, you have won the war. You have done everything there is to do. You have already arrived. So be there. Be in the moment. Listen to them deeply. And that's all you will ever need to do. And the rest of it will work itself out. Those expectations will remain at the back of your mind, and then you'll be like, I don't need them anymore. And then they'll fall away. So don't make it a fight don't make everything a fight. Go with the flow. Be in the moment. Be there. Because if you are there, that is more than anything else you will ever ask for. So we have 1 minute left, and so I'll say thank you for being here. I love doing these lives. Your presence is the greatest gift you can give someone, absolutely. And so I'm glad you are giving me the gift of your presence by being here. I really appreciate all of you being here. Unfortunately, we don't have enough time, so we'll look at depression. I'm thinking of doing one tomorrow, actually. So we can look at it tomorrow. If you guys want to be here tomorrow, that's awesome. I'll put another thing in the comments, in the story, so you guys can add a timer and be here again. Thank you so much for being here. I will talk to you again tomorrow. Thank you.